Welcome back, everybody. Derrick Soo, your East Oakland advocate. Well, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And so, what I'm doing this month is talking about mental health issues. And I'm starting out my talk this month talking about the challenges and struggles that I had along the way. And one of the things that I can say, if you saw yesterday's episode, uh, I I had a lot of challenges, especially when I lost all my money in 2008, and then uh, dealing with the poverty for the first time of not having money all through my life, even though I was raised a middle class kid, and I created a lot of my own income from the age of 8, as young as the age of 8. And that's because my parents wouldn't allow me to have a newspaper route back then, because they didn't want to get up early in the morning, make sure I get to my job delivering papers, and then delivering papers after school. That job doesn't exist today, but it did back in the 60s, when I was a young person. In fact, uh, 8 years old was the youngest you can start having a paper route, and your pay back then was like a nickel per newspaper that got delivered. And so some kids had some pretty good routes, but generally, most kids made about between $50 and $80 a month delivering newspapers, which isn't a bad income for the 60s, because if you think about it, my mother, she only made $1.65 in 1968 as a salesperson working for Macy's. $1.65. That wouldn't even buy a hamburger today. So things have changed a lot, and I did aquaculture. I bred and raised tropical fish, and sold tropical fish to all the pet stores throughout the Bay Area. And I was making $100 a week as an 8-year-old, and I did. I was making more by the time I got into middle school. I was making about $250 to $300 a week, so that was pretty good money, and that was all under the table. Uh, my dad was concerned about taxes, but we found a way to work it with all the different tropical fish stores, and so I still had a nice income as a young person. In fact, I was making more money than most newspaper delivery kids, and I did it on my terms. And granted, I didn't get rich. The intent wasn't to get rich; it was just to have some money in my pocket. And with that, one of my first purchases, because we lived on a hill, my parents were always afraid of me getting hurt on a bicycle because I couldn't stop. And so uh, that was never an issue, because I could ride a bike, and my parents' fears were unfounded. So anyway, I, from a young age, from the age of 10, uh, supplied all of my own needs. My toys, bicycle, slot cars. I was really into slot cars, so I was very self-sufficient from a very young age, and had been self-sufficient all the way up until this financial disaster in 2008. And this was all new water and all new territory for me. I've never experienced poverty like this, where I couldn't even figure out if I'm going to eat tomorrow. That poor. I've never been in that situation, and so being in that was very stressful, and it weighs heavily on your mind, along with, like I said yesterday, the embarrassment. You don't want family to find out, or if they do find out, how are they going to treat you? Uh, um, I know my sister wasn't going to treat me good, because her and I never got along from the get-go. So there was always uh, that mental wall in the family, and part of that the family dysfunction of that, and we could never work past that. And when she got an opportunity to kick me when I was down, so to speak, she did. And she kicked me pretty good. She kicked me to the curb, literally, and uh, without any resources. And that family home was never to be sold. Both of my parents told both of us that home is never to be sold. It is to stay in the family name. You need to just keep it, put both of your names on there, and then keep it. And in the event that somebody loses their home or needs a home in the family, either one of us, my sister or myself, that home was available. And the property taxes were protected under Prop 13. And so the property taxes were ridiculously low. Uh, in fact, $900 was the entire property tax for my parents' home there. And so it made it very easy for one of us, or even myself. I had enough means where I could take over, have utilities, and pay insurance, and also pay for the property tax on the home. I wouldn't have any rent or payment because of the parents' request. No rent is to be charged. And so my sister threw all that out and threw me out on the street. And so uh, that mental part was always very hard. And I get a lot of you that say, well, why don't you, reach out to her? Well, there's nothing to reach out for, because during the filming of our documentary, our film crew, the producer, one of the producers reached out to her, and she slammed the phone on him when she said, identified who he was, and that he was doing a documentary on me, with me, and that they wanted to talk to her. She slammed the phone. So tells you where she's at on that. But being in a state of poverty, it, 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 it is so tiring on your mind, because you're constantly trying to figure out what, how, where, what can I do to get out of this situation. I was highly skilled, but unfortunately, the Times said we don't need any of your skills, and I wasn't at a point where physically I could go into law enforcement because of medical conditions, and so I wouldn't pass the physical. And so for a lot of my counterterrorism experience, there are no marketable skills, because what I did is there are no legal marketable uh, outlets, period. And so, um, yeah, it tires your mind, and you start understanding the desperation of people who perhaps were in a situation like mine, or they've been fighting a situation exactly like that their entire life because of mental and limitations of their own mind, or the ability to learn. Like I said, I had my best friend Paul. He had learning disabilities, but he had enough intelligence uh, where, even though he didn't make a lot of money, he still owned a building up until his mother got really sick, and then he sold the building, moved back in to the family home, or his mother's home, until her passing. And then rather than keep the home and stay in there, the family, all the kids got together, sold the family home, which they should have kept it, and kept Paul there, because shortly after Paul ran out of money, then he ended up becoming one of the invisible homeless. Paul Washington ended up living with his sister and her husband in the Oakland Hills. uh, and he paid a small rent in the room, but he was always uncomfortable there, and he expressed that because he's having to become dependent upon his sister for housing, because the amount of money that he received for his disability, his back disability, was not a big check. He received a total of $800 a month, and that was it. And again, we're back to a lot of seniors who had received Social Security benefits that are only between $600 and $800 a month. And so, how can housing possibly figure into um, those kind of low numbers? And that's why they become homeless, because there are no other means. And then, even though they have a little bit of means and they're living on the street, all of their expenses, their food, their heating, their cooking, cleaning, everything becomes impossibly difficult to sustain and maneuver so that you can have all of those needs met. And there just comes a point, I'm leaning up to it, a burnout. You get burned out. You just say, fuck it, literally. And that's where I see a lot of homeless people where they literally have just given up, and they just say it's hopeless. There's nothing I can do. I've been doing this for so many years, and this amount of time, nothing has changed. And so those are the people that have given up in and on life, and because they see homelessness as hopeless. And it's just been a frustrating cycle for so much time has elapsed that they just don't see any way out. And so they either drink themselves to death, uh, they commit suicide, uh, they overdose in the part of medicating themselves so that they can deal with the stress of daily life. And then we're not even talking, including yet, the amount of crime that goes on that's inflicted upon the homeless, and sexual predators that are out there that prey on the women uh, out there, and also men. Believe it or not, I was attacked by two people, two different times, and whipped the shit out of them, and Pandora got the other one. And but it's scary out there, and that's what traumatizes you. And that's why I say a lot of folks, if you don't have any income, I would please encourage you to find a homeless advocate who can hook you up with uh, a lawyer uh, at no cost or low cost to help you apply for PTSD trauma, a medical condition that is now recognized by Social Security. Because I received that benefit, started receiving that benefit in 2015, and then I received it all the way up until I turned 62, where I rolled and changed over to Social Security, which gave me a nearly $500 raise from where I was. So it was a bridge. It was an important bridge that helped. And then along with that, so Social Security provided the psychiatric care and examinations that qualified me all through the process. And they provided medications. Like I said, I didn't like the medications, and I fully understand why a lot of folks don't like the medications. But there are new, more holistic medications coming on the market that are now being looked at and researched. Like the psychedelic mushrooms are being looked at right now, and actually even legalized here in the city of Oakland for possession and sale. Also, cannabis is available as a holistic um, uh, treatment. And that's one treatment that I personally use. And it also helps me with my ongoing cancer uh, treatment, and it helps me regulate my eating. Uh, Nothing else, but it helps regulate my eating because I don't get hungry. Literally, since chemotherapy, I don't get hungry, and if I um, my oncologist is 100% fully aware and supports uh, my cannabis use for the treatment in lieu of the other way that would be done, which would be through pills that would be prescribed as an ongoing long-term treatment. And I didn't like that. The psychological medications do a lot of different things. Like in my case, one made me very violent, and it only took 3 days to bring that out. So you have to talk with your doctor, your mental health doctor, your psychologist. Uh, and I was more stable when I was constantly under the care of a medical psychologist. All through my work career, I had that. After every assignment, I was debriefed, and also not only that, then uh, had a mental evaluation through psychological um, conference with a qualified doctor, psychological doctor for the United States government, who recertified me for active duty with my weapons. And it was real important because the way that we acted, we literally skirted laws of every country and our own even. But that's part of counterterrorism, and that's how we keep America safe, by mirroring the terrorists. But instead of doing bad in America, we do the bad on them, and that's what we did. And I can tell you, that part didn't cause the PTSD, because these were things that were expected and needed to be done. What happens to a homeless person, man or woman, it makes no difference. It is all traumatic. It is all harmful, and there's nothing positive about it. Anybody who says that they want to be out there is one of two things. They're either mentally insane or a criminal. That's it. Because anybody else who wants to be out there is mentally insane or a criminal. They're and you see all these big enterprises. These are the smaller enterprises that steal from you and then hide out in little places. Or they steal your car and they strip your car down to the bones and sell all the parts. Or take your catalytic converters, your wheels. You know, that's the kind of people that end up in a lot of these homeless camps, or these pretend homeless camps that should be shut down. And this is why I push for the removal of all homeless street encampments, and I push for real housing, not temporary shelter, not temporary housing, but real long-term permanent housing for our homeless and our unhoused, and those that are at risk could be put into the program and have housing that is safe and permanent, and that will eliminate a lot of the city crime and the little mini warehouses that are hiding in the homeless camps. I'm not saying that all the homeless camps have criminals, because I certainly did my part to keep them out of my camp until they burned me out. And then after I left, they left also, because AT&T put cameras up right on top of them, and every time when they did something, a car that they started stripping, police showed up. These are things that we need throughout Oakland. We need to remove the homeless camps and then get them under self-governing or co-governing uh, uh, type models, that I've been talking about, and that a lot of homeless um, advocates have been talking about. And uh, politicians are fighting us on this. And this is why we're fighting so hard, because we know these work, and the politicians, they're saying something different. They're making up lies. We know that all of these policies work because these are the same policies that are used for homeowner associations with condos and large group ownership of home properties. Thanks for joining me today. We'll be right back.